Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take that big pile of information, all the research, the notes, different viewpoints, and, really unpack it for you, give you the shortcut to getting up to speed. Today, we're diving into the astrology for June 2025. We've looked through a lot of material on the planetary movements, what's being highlighted for the month, and honestly, there's some pretty interesting stuff coming up.
Absolutely, yeah. Our goal here, our mission, if you like, is to pull out those key shifts, the planet's changing signs, the big moon moments, and just the general themes that seem to define June 2025 from everything we've reviewed. We really want to give you a clear picture of the cosmic energies at play, what it might all mean.
It's always fascinating how different sources, different takes, often end up pointing to the same core ideas, right?
Right,
Even
yeah.
if the emphasis varies a bit.
Totally. And for June 2025, the picture that's emerging is definitely one of, well, significant shifts, lots of potential. There's a really powerful positive wave coming in, it seems, but like any strong current, there are also definitely moments that look like they need a bit more uh, mindfulness, careful navigation.
Okay, so where do we start? What's the headline news?
Right, let's kick off with a really big one. The transit that just seems to stand out across the board, and that's Jupiter. The planet of expansion, luck, all that good stuff, moving into the sign of Youngest. Cancer, as most people know it.
Okay, Jupiter into Cancer.
Yeah, and there was a tiny bit of back and forth on the exact date. Some said June 9th, others Juneteenth, but it's right there at the start of the month. And the importance of it, that was consistent everywhere.
So why is Jupiter moving into Cancer such a big deal astrologically?
Well, because Jupiter is considered to be in its exaltation in
The
Cancer.
exaltation.
Yeah, think of it like a planet's VIP spot. It's a sign where the planet can express its absolute best qualities, where its energy is just really comfortable, really amplified.
Ah, okay.
So Jupiter's whole vibe, expansion, luck, growth, protection, abundance, it finds really fertile ground in Cancer's energy. The themes that keep popping up with this transit, and this isn't just for June, this shapes things for about a year, are super focused on home, family, our sense of security, emotional needs, comfort, intuition, nurturing, hospitality. It's like the volume gets turned way up on these parts of life.
So a big cosmic boost for our foundations, basically, our comfort zones.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And we might see real growth and opportunity in things like real estate, housing, anything connected to creating that strong, nurturing home base.
Sounds pretty positive.
It really does. It's widely seen as a time promising a general feeling of ease, of positivity, a chance for things to feel, well, just better, more supportive, especially in those home and family areas.
And you mentioned some signs feel this more strongly.
Yeah, the sources highlighted Cancer itself, obviously, feeling it directly. Then Pisces, Scorpio, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are also seen as particularly well aligned to benefit.
How so for them? Like, what's the connection?
Okay, so for Cancer, it's right there in their first house, their sense of self. Capricorn, opposite Cancer, might feel it strongly in partnerships.
Right.
For Pisces, maybe look for opportunities in romance, creativity, kids. Scorpio could see expansion through, say, travel, higher education, publishing. Taurus might find growth related to their finances, their values, what they own. And Virgo could experience it positively impacting their work, their health routines, their daily life.
Wow, okay. That paints a really supportive picture overall.
Yeah.
You mentioned emotional needs and family being key themes. How does that tie into how we're communicating?
Perfect segue. Because right around the same time, about June 8th, Mercury also moves into Cancer.
Okay, Mercury joining Jupiter there.
Exactly. And Mercury governs how we think, speak, process information. When it's in Cancer, our communication style tends to get much more emotionally tuned in, more intuitive, more empathetic. Our minds aren't just crunching data. They're picking up on feelings, the subtext, our inner world. Conversations might feel more sincere, more nurturing, even protective.
So less about just the raw facts, more about the feeling behind the words.
Precisely. It's a time where really listening, deep listening becomes super important. Even silence can communicate a lot. Trusting your gut feeling about what someone's really saying could be key.
Interesting.
There is a shift later in the month, though. Around June 26th, Mercury moves into Aslan, or Leo.
Ah, Leo.
Bit different.
Yeah, that could bring a more expressive style, maybe a bit more dramatic, even attention-seeking, especially if the topic is home or family. A bit more flair.
Okay, so communication starts deep and intuitive, then potentially gets a bit more performative later on. Got it. What about Venus? Love, money, beauty, always important.
Always. And right on cue, Venus moves into Bosa, or Taurus, around June 6th. Venus in Taurus. That sounds good. Isn't Venus happy there?
Very happy. Taurus is one of the signs Venus rules, so it's right at home. This transit really amps up our appreciation for beauty, for sensory pleasures, good food, nice surroundings, comfort, tangible value. In relationships, the focus shifts to loyalty, trust, stability, enjoying the simple, solid comforts of life together. Reliability becomes really attractive.
So a good time for, like, self-care, making your space nicer, building those solid connections.
Exactly. Perfect for pampering yourself, making your environment more beautiful and comfortable, and definitely focusing on relationships built on shared values, trust, and that sense of reliability. It can also bring some nice opportunities related to finances, maybe increasing your sense of material security or well-being.
And any signs getting an extra boost from this?
Yes, Taurus, naturally, but also Kova, Aquarius, and Olac, Capricorn, were mentioned as potentially benefiting quite a bit from this Venus transit.
Okay, so we've got this strong current of comfort and expansion from Jupiter, intuitive communication from Mercury, and this grounded appreciation for value and stability from Venus. What about action? Getting things done? Mars.
Right, the Energy planet. Mars moves into Bashak, or Virgo, around June 17th.
Mars in Virgo. Sounds practical.
Very practical. Mars in Virgo takes all that fiery Martian drive and channels it into details, organization, routines, work, service, practical problem solving. Your motivation might really shift towards efficiency, improving health habits, sorting things out, tackling projects that need meticulous attention.
So the energy gets focused on fixing things, making them work better, like fine-tuning.
Precisely. It's great energy for focusing on your work environment, improving daily tasks, anything requiring precision. But there's a potential downside mentioned.
Oh.
Yeah, the caution was about maybe becoming overly critical of yourself or others, getting too bogged down in the details, maybe a bit nitpicky, or potentially increase competitiveness in the workplace, that kind of thing. Finding that balance is key.
That's a really interesting mix then. Big picture comfort meets detailed efficiency. Okay, beyond the planet's moving signs, what about the moon? The full moon and new moon always mark key moments, right?
Absolutely. They provide that monthly rhythm, the punctuation marks, if you will. The first up is the Dolunay, the full moon in Yay, or Sagittarius. That happens around June 11th.
Sagittarius full moon.
Mm.
What themes does that bring up?
Well, a full moon is typically about culmination, release, clarity, things coming to light. In Sagittarius, the focus zooms out to bigger picture stuff. Higher learning, travel, especially long distance, philosophy, publishing, legal matters, broadening your horizons.
So we might see things concluding or becoming clear around travel plans, maybe studies, legal things.
Exactly. Could be the final word on a legal case or a visa application. Travel plans might finally lock in. Or you might just get a big flash of insight about your future goals, your beliefs, your wider perspective. For some signs, it was specifically noted as highlighting relationship dynamics or partnerships coming to a head.
Anything else with that full moon?
There was also a mention, interestingly, about potential health awareness around this time, maybe related to the lower body hips, thighs, or the nervous system, things Sagittarius is sometimes linked with. Just something to be mindful of.
Okay, a time for illumination and letting go. And then, later in the month, the chance for new beginnings. The new moon.
That's right. We get the Yene, the new moon, and Yangas, or Cancer, around June 25th.
New moon in Cancer.
Right.
So back to that home and family theme.
Exactly. A new moon is always about planting seeds, setting intentions, starting fresh. It's that dark of the moon energy, perfect for initiating things quietly.
And the big deal here is it's connecting with Jupiter.
That's the absolute key point highlighted everywhere. This new moon is described as being conjunct, like right next to Jupiter in Cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine taking that potent new beginning energy of a new moon and then just dousing it with Jupiter's massive expansion, luck, and abundance.
Okay, that sounds powerful.
It really does. It's presented as a particularly potent window, a really fortunate time for starting anything related to those core Jupiter and Cancer themes. Home, family, emotional security, feeling safe, personal growth within those areas. If you're thinking about making changes related to your living situation, family dynamics, or just nurturing your inner sense of security, this looks like an incredibly supported time to do it. Big potential for positive new starts.
Some sources mention specifics.
Yeah, some specifically called out potential new beginnings in relationships, partnerships, or actual home and real estate matters. Really seems like a green light for those areas.
Okay, so that sounds like a really strong, positive note to aim for towards the end of the month.
Yeah.
But we did say at the start there might be some tricky bits. Were there warnings or specific dates to watch out for?
Yes. Definitely. While the overall vibe, especially with Jupiter's arrival, is really positive, the month isn't completely smooth sailing. The sources did flag a couple of periods or aspects that might require more caution. The first one is a Jupiter-Saturn square, noted as being most active around June 15th.
Jupiter square Saturn, expansion meets restriction.
Pretty much. A square in astrology often brings tension, friction. It's like two different energies are pushing against each other. Here you've got Jupiter wanting to grow and expand, meeting Saturn's energy of limits, structure, maybe delays.
So like hitting a speed bump on that expansive highway.
Exactly. The potential effects mentioned were things like obstacles, delays, frustrations, especially impacting those Jupiter and Cancer areas. Home, family, security, real estate, maybe big projects related to your foundations. Progress might feel slow or blocked around mid-month. It could demand extra patience, careful planning, maybe a reality check on some grand visions. Some also noted potential friction in financial sectors or international trade.
Okay, so mid-month requires patience. Anything else?
Yes, there's also a Mars-Uranus square. Now, one source pinpointed this around June 15th too, while another saw it peaking a bit later, maybe closer to June 21st.
Mars square Uranus, action meets surprise.
You got it. Mars is drive, action, energy. Uranus is sudden change, disruption, the unexpected. Put them in a tense square.
Sounds potentially explosive, or at least unpredictable.
It can be. The descriptions included things like sudden events, unforeseen problems popping up, maybe a higher risk of accidents or impulsive actions leading to trouble. It could also relate to larger disruptions, maybe even connected to natural events or tech glitches.
Okay, so the middle of the month seems to have a couple of these challenging aspects going on.
Right. So the general advice distilled from everything was basically tread a bit more carefully around mid-June, specifically the dates around the 15th, and then maybe keep awareness high around the 19th, 22nd, 23rd as well. Probably not the best few days to launch major new ventures or take big risks. Patience, flexibility, double-checking things, that seems to be the recommendation.
So navigate the middle carefully, but the end of the month looks much better.
Yes, exactly. That second half, especially after the 24th or 25th with that amazing Jupiter-New Moon conjunction, is really highlighted as being much more favorable. Better energy for taking action, starting things, moving forward, particularly with those home, family, and security goals.
You mentioned potential larger disruptions. Did the sources talk about any broader collective impacts?
They did, yeah. Some analyses looked at how these transits might interact with, say, national charts. For instance, there were interpretations noting Jupiter activating key points in Turkey's chart. The suggestion was that this period, not just June, but extending into 2026, with a particular focus around June and July 2025, could potentially signal some significant positive shifts for the public there.
Positive shifts like?
Things like maybe increased optimism, a sense of relief, or greater freedom, perhaps economic improvements. There were also mentions of potential positive turns in international relations or growth in sectors like tech and entertainment. Again, it's important to frame this as astrological interpretation from the sources, looking at potential correlations, not political prediction.
Understood.
And related to the collective field, that Jupiter in Cancer transit overall was also seen as maybe offering a way to navigate societal divisions. The idea being that the increased focus on empathy and shared needs for security could help bridge some gaps.
That focus on empathy definitely links back to Mercury in Cancer, too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. For someone listening right now, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive into June 2025?
Well, it really paints a picture of a month marked by the arrival of this deeply supportive, expansive energy focused on home, family, security, our emotional roots. That's Jupiter in Cancer setting the main theme. Then you layer on communication becoming more intuitive, more feeling-based with Mercury also in Cancer, and a grounded focus on appreciating beauty, comfort, and real value with Venus and Taurus.
When the energy to act.
That gets practical and organized with Mars moving into Virgo, helping us focus on improving routines, health, and getting details right. And we have those key lunar moments. The Sagittarius full moon around the 11th, bringing clarity or endings related to bigger picture ideas. And then that really potent Cancer new moon around the 25th, supercharged by Jupiter, offering this incredible opportunity for fresh starts, especially around home, family, and feeling secure.
So the overall feeling is nurturing, potential for growth, comfort.
Yes, absolutely. The material really suggests tuning into your intuition, figuring out what truly makes you feel at home and safe, both literally and emotionally, and recognizing that latter part of the month looks especially promising for planting seeds or starting things in those areas.
While maybe being a bit more cautious mid-month.
Exactly. Navigating those few days around the Jupiter-Saturn and Mars-Uranus squares might bring some bumps or frustrations, but knowing about them helps. Understanding the energy allows you to approach it with patience and flexibility, maybe, rather than just feeling blindsided or fighting against it.
Right. It's about working with the currents, not against them.
Precisely.
So we've taken our deep dive into the astrological landscape of June 2025, pulling together the insights from the material we had.
We've looked at those major transits, the key lunar phases, the dates that seem to really shape the month's energy flow.
And it's fascinating how that powerful arrival of Jupiter in Yengesh and Cancer really stands out as the central theme, isn't it?
It really does. This whole exploration has offered a glimpse into how these celestial movements get interpreted, suggesting potential shifts focusing so strongly on home, security, emotional well-being, alongside those real opportunities for growth and new beginnings.
So here's a thought to maybe carry with you as you move into June, something to mull over. Beyond just your physical house, how can you actively cultivate and strengthen that sense of home, that feeling of safety, comfort, and belonging within yourself and in your immediate world?